Okay, well, let me just start by saying we have a problem. Okay, we have a serious problem on our hands. And the biggest problem, or one of the biggest problems I think that we have today in our society across the board, and I see it in my office all the time with couples, it's the same thing from the 30,000 foot level. And you know what that is? It's taking ownership, a lack of taking ownership, real ownership, personal responsibility. When was the last time you ever heard anybody take personal responsibility? Any politician, mainstream media, etc. I mean, everything we hear is a lack of personal responsibility and it's a maximization of blaming. And that's why I want to make this video, because I am so frustrated with every time I listen to another press conference of something, whether it's a corporation or it's a politician. What I'm so frustrated about is that I don't hear ownership. I don't hear personal responsibility. I don't hear brutal honesty. And you know what? If we could just fix this, I mean, especially with our politicians, listen to them. None of them are taking ownership. They're just blaming each other. No one takes ownership these days. And this is what I think is one of our core dysfunctional problems today in our culture. It's being modeled for us how not to take ownership, not to take personal responsibility. Everybody says they are, and right after they say that, they say but, and then they blame somebody, right? That's what it is. So in this video, we're going to talk about 3 ways to take serious ownership. What does real ownership look like? And like I said, I work with couples all the time, and when they begin to take real ownership in the ways that I'm going to describe in a second, it changes the whole dynamic of the relationship. It reconciles them. Don't we want reconciliation? Wouldn't that be awesome to see reconciliation between our politicians, our left and right? Wouldn't it be amazing to see reconciliation? Well, if there was ownership on one side or the other, I guarantee you we would start to see a lot more harmony going on. Okay, so let's look at this. All right. So here is the first one. Okay. How do we take ownership? Well, the first part of that is being brutally honest with yourself and others. It starts with yourself, right? Being really honest. If you're not being honest with yourself, you know it. It's like there's a check, right, in your heart, in your spirit. When you're minimizing, rationalizing, or justifying whatever it is that you're trying to take ownership for. And it usually comes with that but that I mentioned just a minute ago. You're being honest with yourself, but then there's a but, and then you rationalize or justify or minimize with that but. Okay? I know I shouldn't have done what I did, and I'm really sorry for that, but I was just having a really hard day. That's minimizing. That might be legit, but that's not where you want to start when you're actually trying to take ownership with someone. Okay. So that's the first one, being brutally honest with yourself and others. Examine what it is that you are being honest about, what you think you're being honest about. Put it under a microscope. Are you truly being honest about what it is that you're taking ownership for? And here is the second part. Okay. Number 2, justify why you did something wrong and why it matters. See, this is the one that we usually always skip. We just do our sorries. I'm sorry. We just make that apology. And again, when I see couples do this, it reconciles. And that is, they justify what it is that they're saying they're sorry for. What I mean by justifying is that it has to make sense to you what it is that you're apologizing for. It has to make sense. That has to be the goal. Make this a part of your process. Before you say I'm sorry, before you apologize, it has to make sense to you so it can make sense to your partner or someone else when you make the apology. What are you apologizing for? First I just need to say I'm sorry for that thing that I said or did, because I know that when I do that, it triggers you. I know when I do that, it makes you feel alone. I know when I do that, it triggers your abandonment stuff. I know when I do that, it makes you feel inadequate. I know when I do that or say that thing, it reminds you of what your mom or dad used to do, and that really bothers you. See, justify why it is that you're saying you're sorry. That goes a long way when you're able to share with your partner what it is that you're saying you're sorry for. And here's the thing. That old saying of you got to put yourself in your partner's shoes or the other person's shoes? That's it, for real. Okay, that's how you really do it. You actually consider the ways in which the ways in which you said what you said or did what you did actually affects this person. Am I making some sense? Okay, let's go to the next one. Number 3, being willing to accept the consequences. Okay, now we don't stop there because the next one is the hardest one. Can you do it with a posture of humility? Because that's the key right there. It's not just accepting the consequences. That's compliance sometimes, or I'm just being compliant. I'll accept the consequences. I'll do whatever I need to do. But can you do it with a posture of humility? That's a whole other ballgame right there. Now, I'm talking about being a better human being here, all right? If we want to practice taking ownership, it's gonna all be wrapped up in humility. And that last one right there, being able to accept the consequences, not avoid them, but accept them, embrace them, and do it with a posture of humility. I'm not saying be happy and joyous, yay, I get to pay the consequences. But can you do it with a posture of humility, meaning not grumbling or complaining? What does a posture of humility look like? Well, it's an attitude. It's also, I'm going to embrace this consequence, but I'm going to learn from it. So consequences with a posture of humility, it actually really makes us better people. Why? Because we're present in the consequence, meaning we're doing something in the consequence that generally makes us better versions of ourselves. A husband hides a major secret from his wife. His wife feels really unsafe with him and says, I need you to take the couch for the next 5 days. I just need you to accept to receive that personal boundary that I have right now because I'm feeling really hurt by what it is that you did. Let's just say the husband does these 3 things. He does all 3 of these. He gets to number 3, accepting it so he can be compliant, right, by getting on the couch. But what would that look like if he did that with a posture of humility? Well, he wouldn't just take the couch. He would actually journal those 5 days. Maybe he would connect with others, with his couple of guys that he knows who he trusts and processes that with them because he wants to learn from this. He wants to grow from this. He doesn't want to just do it in compliance, although that helps his wife, but he wants to grow from this. He doesn't want to just do this to make her feel better. He wants to do it because he wants to grow. Do you understand what I'm talking about here? Okay. So those are the 3 things. I hope those help. I can go, so much deeper into all of these, but I think that's kind of the topsoil right there of what it means to actually take ownership. And like I said, if we would all just do this better, if our politicians would take ownership, I'm telling you, there would be so much more harmony. If we would all across the board take more ownership, we would all be so much better for each other. There would be so much more harmony. And we lack harmony right now. So I encourage you, okay? Practice taking ownership. You'll be glad that you did. See you next time.